Hello everyone, it's Magic here. Hope you guys are doing great. What I have for you today is, look at this, 1 terabyte CF Type 8 memory card from Angelbird. And I'm gonna start with this. This card is extremely well priced for what it has to offer. So the only question is whether you need a card like this in your workflow or not, because if you need it, like, the answer is simple, just get this one. But in this video, I'm gonna break down like what actual difference does it make to use a card like this in your Sony camera, in your video and photo workflow. Also, make sure to stick to the end of this video as I will share my personal ideas for a workflow I have 2 ideas and I don't know which way should I go, so you're gonna help me decide. Okay, let's start. What actually is this CF Type A card? It's a different type of card. It's only being used in certain Sony cameras, so Sony A7 IV, A7S III, A7RV, FX3, A1. So all the newer cameras, they do have this slot that can take either SD or CF Type A, which is this type of card. The power of this cards just comes with a speed. So you get like a small card that is like kind of replaceable with SD card, but is more than twice as fast as the fastest SD cards. But also these are very pricey. So far there has been just a couple manufacturers making these, and they all kind of average like around $200 for the lowest capacity being 80 gigabytes. So there's like the Sony Tough was like kind of most popular ones. So $200 was 80 gigs, and then $350, $400 was 160 gigs. So this Angelbird is 1 terabyte for $500. So the price ratio versus how many gigabytes you're getting out of this is crazy, and it just blows all the others out of the water. So I'm going to also look at these and compare it to the other ones. So I personally tested these on my Sony A7S III, which I'm using to record my videos, and A7R5s, which I'm using for my photography. So for video purposes, there actually is one limitation of a functions that you can use, like a modes that you can use if you're using only SD cards. You cannot record 4K 100p in S&Q mode in XAVC SI format. This is the only format you cannot use while using SD cards. You need a faster card in order to get all that data to your card. You need a card like this, so CF Type A card. All the other formats, all the other types of video formats, like features, like everything else is available for both SD and CF Type A cards. Is it a big deal? In my personal opinion, no. I never use S&Q, and I still can use 4K 100p in like the normal mode, XAVC S format as well. So for my personal preference, that limitation is not big. So, but if you're a filmmaker and maybe you need a specific type of format, yeah, you can get that big card. But the other benefits coming from using card like CF Type A card, like first of all, like if you're recording tons of data, like video recording tons of data, again 4K 100p with 1 terabyte, you can actually film over 8 hours of footage of 4K 100 or over 11 hours of footage in 4K 50p, which is insane. That's insane amount of data. So having a big card like this, it's like clearly beneficial for your workflow. But then of course you can get SD card as big as 1 terabyte, and it's gonna be cheaper. The difference is that if you're gonna take out this card that is already full from your camera and you need to copy those to your computer, with the fastest SD card, you're gonna need more than 1 hour to get 1 terabyte copied from a card to the computer. With this CF Type A card, you'll need roughly around 20 to 30 minutes, like depending which card you're actually going for. So that's a crazy difference in a workflow, like waiting 20 minutes or waiting 1 hour for your footage to get copied to your computer. So benefits of using CF Type A cards for video modes in your camera is going to be no limitation in the modes, so you can use all the modes including S&Q, 4K, 100p, 10-bit, and then you're going to get faster read speeds so you're gonna need less time to copy your files from the card to the computer, which might be crucial in certain scenarios. How about photos then? Are there any limitation where using like SD cards or CF Type A cards in terms of like photography and formats? No, there is not. So with A7R5, which is like the high megapixel camera, 61 megapixels, the files are huge. You can record all types of files into like the slowest SD card or the fastest CF Type A card. So there is no limitations with any of the cards you're using in your camera. But the practical difference is gonna be how quickly your camera is clearing the buffer. So imagine a scenario if you're like shooting high burst, like 10 frames per second, photos with 61 megapixels. With SD card, like the camera will slow down very quickly. After roughly 30 photos, you will just chuck the camera and you will just need to wait. And that wait can be very painful in various scenarios. I personally have tons of occasions that I would not be happy if this happened to me. So what was the results of my test? So I used the full RAW, uncompressed RAW with a high-speed burst on all the cards that I have, starting with this Angelbird 1 terabyte card. It let me shoot 126 RAW files before it starts slowing down and just like waiting for card to write the data on it. But then the buffer would clear in like roughly 7 seconds. So after 7 seconds, I can take another 126 images. And even letting go the shutter button for a brief second will let you shoot again even more photos. So actually there's kind of no limit, even when shooting uncompressed, full, huge RAW files on that Sony A7RV monster. Comparing that to a Sony TUF card, which I also have, the difference was minimal. So with a Sony TUF card, I could record 121 images in a one single burst before it starts slowing down. And then also it took it like around 7 seconds to clear the buffer. Just to give you the comparison on the fastest SD card there is, which is like 300 megabytes per second speed, I could get only 46 images in a row before it slowed down, and then it needed around 20 seconds to clear the buffer. So 3 times difference of how much you have to wait for your camera to write the data. The other practical difference is going to be again how you copy the files from your computer. So just to give you a comparison between Angelbird and a Sony TUF card, in order to copy the RAW files from the card to the computer, in both cases I used also new Angelbird memory card reader. And I have to say, this reader is a state of art. It's amazing, it's lightweight, it's tiny, and the way it's built that the cable actually dips way deeper in the case of this reader that it's very hard to disconnect. So this is actually well designed, like bravo Angelbird. I actually am very impressed how this is designed. And the speeds I was getting out of these two cards, so Sony and Angelbird, was comparable. So copying 64 gigabytes of RAW files from the card to the computer, it took roughly around 1 minute and 30 seconds on the Angelbird memory card, giving me a speeds between 550 to 780. So that speed was varying. And then using Sony card, I could get the same amount of file, the same files I would get to my computer in 1 minute 20 seconds, so slightly faster, with speeds being not lower than 700 megabytes per second. So like the read speed seemed to be faster on Sony card, but the difference is minimal. Just to give you the comparison, if you would be using the fastest SD card, the same amount of data takes 6 to 7 minutes to copy to your computer. So having 1.5 minutes versus 7 minutes, that's quite big difference. So the practical differences in using CF Type A cards in your high megapixel Sony camera versus SD card is gonna be like practically unlimited, buffer. You can shoot 3 times more photos in one run, and letting go your shutter for just a brief second will let you shoot more and more and more. So this is like crazy fast how the files are being copied to the card. And then obviously, you're also getting a quick speeds of getting your files out of your card to your computer. So having said that, it's up to you, obviously, the way you shoot them, like the needs you have. Do you need to have your cards copied fast or not, whether you need a CF Type A card or not. But if you need one, this $500 1TB Angelbird card is a killer deal because the speeds you're getting out of this are insane. So in camera, it tends to perform, like with my tests, it performed actually better than a Sony TUF card. In the reader, it performed slightly slower than a Sony TUF card, but the differences were not big. So these cards are very similar in performance. There's no like big performance gap, but there is a huge price difference. But also you have to remember, in order to benefit from a speed of your card in your camera, if you are using dual card slots and you are recording to 2 slots simultaneously, you will need 2 identical cards. So if you're shooting full RAWs to both of your cards and you want to benefit from a CF Type A card like this, you need 2 CF Type A cards in your slots because the system is going to be as fast as the slowest component. So if you're going to use in one slot SD card and in the second slot CF Type A card, you will be limited with the speed of your slower SD card, meaning you're going to be only able to shoot 46 images in a row instead of 120. And that leaves me with my personal dilemma. So now I switch to 2 Sony A7RV cameras for my wedding work, and I was wondering, should I upgrade my cards because like I'm shooting bigger files right now. And here comes the CF Type A cards from Angelbird that are actually pretty affordable for what they are, but still I'm personally shooting dual card slots. So in order to benefit from these cards, I would need to get 2 for each camera. So that's scenario number 1. I'm getting 2 of these in camera number 1, 2 of these in camera number 2. The benefits, I'm getting all the benefits from these cards. I'm getting great speeds in my camera so I can shoot practically unlimited, and then I'm getting really good speeds like downloading these files, transferring these files to my computer. Downside is that this is $2,000. That's still a lot for 4 cards. I don't necessarily need 1 terabyte for my wedding work. I would be really happy having 250 gigs for a quarter of this price. That would be crazy. That would be amazing. That would be one like first day purchase for me. But there is no option like that. There's only 1 terabyte version of this card for now. So, buying 4 of these kind of overkill, and spending $2,000 just for memory cards also kind of overkill. And the other downside being, like when traveling, I would need to have my memory card reader on me in order to copy my files, versus with SD cards now these days is super convenient. With like new MacBooks, they do have card slot in computer and I use them extensively. I jump on a plane, I open my computer, I don't need to connect anything to my computer. I just put the SD card and I'm good to go, versus having to deal with the cable and the reader and so on. So that's a slight downside of this scenario. Scenario number 2, I could actually use 1 card like this, so one terabyte card in one slot of one camera and in one slot in the second camera. Having that constant backup would be like kind of internal 1 terabyte storage, backupping for like 4 or 5 weddings probably. And in the slot number 1, I would have the fastest SD card for each wedding, separate. The downside of the solution is obviously I'm not getting full speeds in camera, so I'm limited with that SD card. But the benefit is that I can use faster cards, so that CF Type A card in reader if I want to have, the faster speeds. Let's say I'm in a hurry, I need to get these photos offloaded really quickly. I can just get my memory card reader and use this card to get these files 2 times faster than copying the SD cards. Or if I'm traveling, I can still just use SD card in my computer, directly to the computer. So I have like best of both worlds, with the limitation I'm not getting the best speeds in camera. So I'm not really sure which way is the better way to go. You guys let me know down in the comments, what do you think? And if you're interested in my memory card guide for Sony A7 IV, check out this video. And if you want to learn from me, make sure to check out my education website with a flash for wedding photography course and my preset with editing course.